My inspiration came many, many years ago when I, went through my own, my own stuff. I was going through, and there's no help. It was like, you had to kind of figure it out on your own. As a result of it, it was a number of years of just being lost and thinking that there was no help and no one really truly understood us, whether it be military, first responder. So that was a kind of a driving force for me, was knowing and having this greater understanding that there was not very many places where we could actually go. Then as the program progressed in here, we started getting the female former military. And we were so pleased to be able to get them here because, as far as I'm concerned, the female military service personnel has been the forgotten soldiers. And they play a major role in the responsibilities in our overall military branches. And so we were delighted that when we started getting females personnel here to go through our recovery program. And so today we have several of these young ladies that went through the program, and to be able to hear their message today of inspiration and how reaching out and asking for help and becoming vulnerable, knowing and understanding that there's somebody out there that cares for them, that wants to help them, like their male counterparts. This is what we bring today: a message of hope, a message of understanding that we are here to serve both men, women that have served. They signed up, they gave part of themselves to what the freedom that we enjoy today. Freedom is not free. And every one of these ladies here, they are a part of what we enjoy today in this country, the freedom, and so we don't want them to be forgotten anymore. And the message today is a message of encouragement to all those out there who are going to listen to what they have to say, and that we do care and there is help.
I know I was certainly struggling, well, obviously with addiction, but it certainly came from a feeling of being different, of being alone. I struggled with suicidal ideation, which is eventually what led me to the VA. I called the Veteran Suicide Hotline, and they were like, maybe you should come in. And that led me to the West Palm VA, and that led me to Transformations, and thank goodness for it. I didn't even know that there was a veterans program here. I'm really glad that there is. When you get out, when I got out, taking off the uniform was like being stripped of a huge part of my identity. And that was really rough because when you don't know who you are, you don't know what to do. And that was a huge factor in my addiction and the reason I used, and my isolation. So being able to reconnect with people who understood me and rediscover parts of that camaraderie has been a massive part of my recovery and reconnecting with who I am.
I can definitely relate to that. Especially with taking off the uniform. I didn't want to take off my uniform. I was already at 10 years, but after my second deployment with the PTSD, then I was non-deployable in my career field, and they wouldn't retrain me, so they just processed me out, and that was a big blow. I mean, my whole family was military. I wanted to be a lifer, and here my whole life just kind of went another direction. And people constantly telling me how I was a different person, and I was like, yeah, I went to war twice. I mean, it changes you. But I was also battling my own demons of never feeling good enough, and the stuff that happened in the military and the stuff that happened while I was deployed, and that mentality of you gotta push it down, suck it up, soldier, Because if you showed any kind of weakness, especially in the military, it was used against you. So I, at least in my experience, especially as a woman, like even more reason of why women shouldn't serve in the military. But I had a baby, and with my PTSD, I got postpartum. So it's just kind of like a overall, just everything started hit at once, and I couldn't cope. And I was so afraid because the one time I did ask for help, I got locked up in a psych ward, and I'm like, if this is what they do because my medication's messed up, what are they gonna do when I'm actually having a serious problem? So I was lucky enough that my brother-in-law had come through this program like 2 years ago, and I was really looking for a veteran program because I didn't think anybody would understand. But what I'm finding out, especially in addiction, we're all the same, whether it's military or non-military. But the amount of women compared to men really, which gives you a different perspective. Like I remember being in this room and being the only female with like 15 men, you know, and going, I know there's got to be more out there, because they reach out to me all the time. And it started the steps to like meeting wonderful women and even wonderful men. Just having that camaraderie, like she said, all over again. You know, even though I'm not in the military, I feel like I have like that family again that you miss. And like I never thought I had a purpose after the military again, but now I definitely feel like there's a strong purpose out there, not just for veterans, but for, you know, anybody that suffers from addiction, because it's out there for everyone suffering from it, from 18 to, I've seen people as old as 65, you know, it doesn't discriminate. So you can definitely relate on the same things. So.
I could just co-sign on what Brittany's mentioned. I know my experience in the military wasn't the best experience. I was a mechanic, so that's predominantly male. So a lot of times everything I've done has been questioned. Or you're not good enough, even though I went to the same schools, the same, it just made no sense to me. And, but even addition to how I was raised, how I grew up, and then the military, I felt really broke down. You know, after 8 years of service, I felt like it was just a waste of time. And, you know, before coming to Transformations, it was a suicide attempt. That's what brought me in, going before I went to the VA. And, you know, having my child taken away from me, basically, to foster care, then to a family. It's just, I'm trying to express, but I felt like there's a hole I couldn't fill. And before even treatment, you know, without my addiction used to be opiates, now it's really alcohol. It was always, well, military, 4-day weekends, we drink. We go to the classics, you get every beer ever, and you drink. You get every liquor ever, and you drink. It's kind of it seemed like it's ingrained weaved into our, like, our state of mind, I guess. So, I guess before coming here, I've stopped and started and stopped and started and stopped and started because so many reasons. But, you know, after coming here and having break down exactly why I was doing those things and actually addressing the problems I had before the military and while I was in service and after that, and what brought me here, it's been really good. It's been a blessing. Instead of just saying you're alcoholic and teaching me why I'm alcoholic, they're addressing my issues, specifically my issues, and treating me like this. Even though there's all these people here that they're talking to, they're specifically addressing me. And thank goodness, over 9 months clean, and that's it. I was in the Army, and a slogan that we like to say in the military is "Suck it up, drive on." And it's double as hard for us because it seems like we have something to prove no matter what we do. It could be PT tests, it could be our job, it could be field exercises. It seems like we're just under a microscope and scrutinized a lot harder than men. And not to mention even a PT run can be led by a guy and a female falls out of the run, which is like you stop and slow down, you're looked at as weak. Even though you're just not running as fast as him. We have 2 different PT charts and it just seems so strange. Like, why would we have different PT, there is a difference between men and women. But they kind of treat us like one big mass, but as they still treat us as one big mass, they still single females out a lot of times. And my experience has been, I've had it to where they made me cry just to do it. And I really wasn't trying. Sometimes it didn't matter that I had a PT badge. It didn't matter that how well I worked my job. It's just, you were a female. It just seemed like nothing you can do to please these people.
Yeah. There's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. there's a certain amount. In every institution, I feel like there's a mixed bag. Like I had good leadership, and not so super leadership. And there were times I was a great soldier, a not so great soldier, and there were some times I was a really awful soldier. And I feel like the two kind of fit in with one another. I can't say that I am removed from the situations that I was in. I definitely played a part, and I reacted to institutionalized misogyny. There was definitely an ingrained culture of see if you can, sort of this baiting that went on. But one thing I noticed was my reaction to it, the part that I played was that I denied my femininity as a result. Like I despised being a woman. To the point, this is kind of personal, I don't care if you edit it out or you keep it, but I went on continuous birth control so that I never had a period, I never had a menstrual cycle, because I didn't want anybody to be able to point at me and be like, well, you must be on your period. Because that was a thing people would do. Be like, I'm not hormonal, that's not a thing, because I don't have to deal with that. Like, nothing about being a woman, I wouldn't embrace anything about being a woman. I, had long hair for a long time, I cut my hair off. I did all kinds of things to try and be as close to a masculine ideal as possible so that I couldn't be looked at that way. I didn't want to be sexualized, I just didn't want to be a woman. And when I took my uniform off, I carried that out into society. I didn't want to hang out with women. I didn't want to relate to women. If you talked badly about women around me, I would join in. Because I hated my own femininity. It reflected outside of me. So I didn't know what being part of a sisterhood was. Not until I got in the program and I started to get better on the inside did I understand what it felt like to connect with women. And now I surround myself with women that I love, and I've learned to start loving myself and actually be a woman, and it's awesome. But it took a long time, It definitely, the experience of being a woman in the military, the way that I reacted to it, the way that I responded to it was extreme. I don't know what your experience is.
Well, I was a police officer in the Air Force, so, the ratio to male to female is pretty low, but I know straight out the door, it was, you have women that can't handle it, so, just from a different side, there were women that would get pregnant to get out, or, get on a profile so they didn't have to do certain things. So it was like you already had to prove something, because if one female did it, then all the females did it, So I know I made it a point to be like, I'm not that woman, I'm different, but I wasn't different. I just made better decisions, I guess. I don't know. I wanted it more than some people did, but it didn't take long until, you know, being teased, you know, if I got a good post, it was because who was I sleeping with on my flight. It wasn't just because I was a good soldier or I was doing good things. It was, oh, what did you do to get that, you know? And the way I masked it is like, I just like played along like I could hang with the big boys. So you could like say whatever you want and I'd say something just as bad back, just so like it didn't bother me, but I didn't get like, oh, you're so sensitive and you're so this, like. So that started, but then it came to a point, I mean, in basic and tech school, I mean, it's still a man's mentality even today in 2018 that like women shouldn't be in the military. We've been in the military forever, you know.
On the infantry now.
Yeah, you know, it's like, oh, you were a police officer? Like, people look at me like, you weren't sitting at a desk? I'm like, no, I was carrying big freaking guns. And they would get so mad if you shot better than them because they'd be like, oh, I'm about to beat you. And then, like, you're expert, and they're over there sitting, like, 5, and they're like, something was, you know, it's like, and then towards the end, it never stopped. And I'll never forget my second deployment. We had some people near our fence, and it was me as a staff sergeant and another girl as an A1C. Only female post. And they told us to stand down while they let someone go out of their own area and come and take care of it. And I'm going, but I know how to do this. I'm trained to do this. Like, what is your reason for putting me in my area of responsibility and bringing 2 men from another area to do my job? You know? And it just came a point where I just knew nothing was going to change, you know? I even had, when I got out, I even had a guy that used to harass me on my flight, just message me out of nowhere. And, you know, this is a guy that I couldn't, because of his rank, I couldn't just tell him exactly how I felt. But he's like, you know, I heard you got veteran benefits. And it's like, yeah, I did. Like, he's like, just so you know, you don't deserve it. Okay, you know, this is what you deal with. And I'm talking about, I haven't seen the guy in 5 years. I mean, luckily enough, I was able to block him. But I said what I needed to say that time because I had nothing to worry about. But, you know, and that's what I've learned now in this program. Like, that's their own projection and their own demons. But it's hard, you know. But, like, in here, I never felt like that with the people that I've been in this program with. It seems different, I think, for me this time. And I had a hard time with women relationships for a long time, and even male relationships, because you know, you can't just be friends with men in the military, right? You're either doing something or doing something else, you know. So, you know, you always have that stigma no matter what you're doing. It's like, even if you're not doing it, you might as well just say you're doing it because everybody's going to believe you're doing it anyway. But now I know that I have nothing to prove to anybody. I am who I am. I'm pretty awesome at it too, and I had to find my own self-love, and that whatever they said didn't matter.
It undermined my self-worth. I was also a mechanic, and my very first leadership would set me up to fail. He was going through a divorce, and I guess I reminded him of his wife. I don't know. I'm a strong suspicion here. But he would set me up to fail. He would put me on a job that was like had some special element to it that wasn't in, like, you know, you go through a basic mechanic class and then you get thrown into the fire, and there's some special things you need to learn on the job, and so you're supposed to get trained by your leadership when you get there. Like, you're in a motor pool, here are the little details that you weren't taught. And he would like throw me out into the bay and put me on a vehicle and be like, this is the service you need to do, and then like watch me struggle and like basically laugh with the other guys from the bay, and like knowing that I wanted to do well and like basically impress them and impress my leadership and like, you know, do the job, and then like watch me fail and like not let me fail in like you're gonna learn a lesson from this, and I'm gonna, you know, support you and teach you in a supportive way. No, like to laugh at me. And the guys would show up late to formation, like 5-10 minutes late, no consequences. I showed up 2 minutes late and I got written up. And I was like, what is going on? And I didn't understand. I thought maybe it was my personality or something, and I was the only female in the motor pool. It was quite obvious what was going on. But I didn't want to accept it because the reality of like that is like kind of too much to swallow. So it undermined my self-confidence, my self-esteem, my you know, like my basic concept of self. So you start to think you deserve it after a while, you know. It creates a cycle of self-loathing and overcompensation. And then I carried that onto the outside. It's like, well, I kind of suck, so I deserve this, so I'm going to keep doing it to myself because I suck.
I learned really quick that you have to, you know, they suck it up because it seemed like no one cared. So, and stuff it, not to mention grow some thick skin. That's because it's not going to stop. So I just knew that I had to learn who to trust, who not to trust, and really thick skin to the point where I wasn't even smiling anymore. And I knew, but I was like, it's a 4-day. Guess what I'm gonna do? Oh, it's such and such. Guess what I'm gonna do when I get home? Cause just so I can deal with it. Because I've had an NCO that sent, you know, they have boards to get promoted, and they have air assault school, airborne school, all these schools. And I remember one time, I wasn't always the Miss Perfect, but one time I got really in great shape, and I said I wanted to go air assault, and I just remember him sending the worst soldier, like seemed like he did mediocre work, and sent him, and I was like, can I just go to the board to get promoted? And it just seemed like no, and I just was, what did I do? What did I do? It just made me feel like crap for years, and that mentality followed me for such a long time. It's when I discovered codeine, class over codeine, it just seemed like with addiction and drinking, it was the answer to everything. It just numbed me because I'd have to put this wall up so hard and it was so heavy, and I just wanted to feel light. I just wanted to feel release, and that was what gave me my release. And it started a long time, and not to mention I was dealing with depression, and then not taking care of myself because I was sucking it up, then dealing with what happened in the motor pool, and what happened a lot of times in the motor pool, even field training, because I was a female, so I had to, at one point, went to a field problem, I had to sleep I forced myself to sleep with the guys in the same tent, because ROE states, no, I don't say ROE, but it states that I'm supposed to have a tent, different, and my own bathroom, my own tent, because the guys have their own. But I say, no, I want us to all be the same. Because I just didn't want to lose the respect I thought I had with the people there. It just looking back at it, I tried to I just tried to drown that heavy feeling that I was feeling.
Obviously, when someone suffers from a trauma, it changes their personality, it changes their behaviors, it changes their outlook, their perception, changes the entire environment, which is being created, but it's a very destructive environment that is being created. In attempting to bring healing from trauma is about attempting to reclaim the self, reclaiming who once they were. They were young ladies that they had all the best intentions in the world to go out there and make a difference and be able to serve their country. What they found, unfortunately, was a culture that only facilitated opportunities and all these other, positive things to the male counterparts, and you're hearing some of the stuff that they presented here, even refusing their own femininity. I mean, just imagine that for a moment. I mean, you want more of a beginning of a process of a trauma where you are denouncing, your own self, as a woman, as being feminine, and how does that, fit into the military, finding out that it doesn't matter what you do, what you say it, how you do it. It doesn't really matter, because you're always looked at someone who is weaker, someone that cannot be trusted, and so therefore they end up, as you heard, refusing, their own existence in relationship with their own self, with their own femininity. Imagine that for a moment, where you're a female, and yet you have your counterparts, other females, assuming the role of the male role, and how alone would you feel? I mean, there's a woman, and yet doesn't want to be a woman, doesn't want to act like a woman, doesn't, joins into the games and all the other stuff to be able to belittle them, and their intelligence, their capability of how they do things. So trauma plays a major role. If you are cornered someplace and there's no escape, what is it that you're going to do in that corner? There's no escape, there is no one that you can reach out to, no one that can help you but yourself. You're going to attempt to create your own way of dealing with what you have. Usually, if you feel alone, it's going to be isolation, depression, destruction, wrong choices, identity issues. I'm not good enough. You heard right here, when they left, some of them had relationship issues in their life, in their marriage. That's just an extension of those tentacles of the trauma that they experienced. They were just never good enough while they were all along, but they were, by the culture that they joined in, male-dominated culture, they were just not good enough. Why? Don't matter how you do it. Doesn't matter, if you do this, if you do that, if you do the other, you're just never good enough. That's almost like growing up in a household with saying that, you're dumb, you're stupid, you'll never achieve anything, you'll never be good enough, you'll just never achieve. And then, you know what? You grow up to feel that way. You grow up to feel that you definitely, all those people were right, you're just not good enough. What you heard here thus far is just the tip of the iceberg of what the female military personnel has to endure and go through. It's not an easy thing, and it still happens. And a lot of people are just turning the blind eye. They don't want to deal with it. Some because they don't know how to deal with it, others that just don't care to deal with it. So when they come here, they come here as that, really truly believing that they are a broken toy, that they just cannot join anymore. No one's going to have fun with them anymore because they are no longer fun. And that's the part of the isolation, the destruction, the depression, the drug usage, the alcohol, promiscuous lifestyle, failed, again, as I said earlier, failed marriages, failed relationships. So when you come to a place like this, that we attempt to be able to put that individual back together again. It's almost like a puzzle, being able to put that person together again. These individuals, they have wonderful, wonderful things about them. Wonderful things that they've had to push down. In therapy, we bring that up to bring that self-worth back into the whole picture. You're no longer in the military. The self-worth that you deserve, we're going to connect with that, and we're going to bring that, because you are a good human being. You are a good person. You were a good soldier. And with with the PTSD, with the post-trauma that we have here with the EMDR, which is a very powerful way of being able to reprocess the thinking, the greater understanding. And again, it's all about bringing them to a level of acceptance that I am a good person. I am not what these people told me that I was. Move aside. You guys just don't know how to do things, like you heard here. They had to bring, other personnel from somewhere else, men, to be able to take care of a situation that she could have taken care of. They've been trained to do that. So when we get them here, everyone that gets here, just about everyone that comes here really fragmented in many, 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 many ways. And don't forget, also as a result of that many people that join the military because they want to be able to find a sense of identity, of it's a representation of what they do. There's a lot of pride in the uniform, and you see how sometimes how emotional one can get, because there is just a tremendous amount of pride when we put the uniform on, and we earn the right to put, like they have earned the right to put the uniform on, and then we have other people that come over and attempt to strip that from them. It's got to change. The culture in the military has to change, and it is changing, but it's ever so slowly. But and that's what we want to do. It is the message of these strong women that you see here today, that they decided that they wanted to make a difference, in the world, in this country, and as a result of that, you see what they had to endure, and that's the message. We want the females that are listening to know that, these ladies not only were tough enough to join the military and to do what they did, but also tough enough to say, I have a problem and I need help. And that's why they're here. I'm very proud of them, to be honest with you.
Thank
I
you.
can't be more proud of them. I
We
just
love
cannot
you.
be
We
more
love
proud of
you.
them.
I think the first 2 weeks I sat in this room, I cried every single day. I was so broken when I got here. I'd been broken for a really long time. The only difference is I never showed it. Everybody else's feelings and everybody else's stuff was more important than me, because I needed to be the strong one. I needed to be the stronghold. But that catches up with you after a while. And I hit my emotional rock bottom, because I hadn't hit a complete rock bottom yet. And I'll never forget, the first day Carlos did this hand, the 5 things to help you in your recovery, and the first one was honesty. And I knew I was willing. I knew whatever I was doing before didn't work. And he said honesty, and so from the get-go, I was just vomiting at the mouth, just everything that was just inside. Carlos knows how to make you feel, because even as a woman, when you go through stuff like any kind of military sexual trauma or anything, you still don't want to talk to men about it. But Carlos also has a way of helping you understand. He's your dad, but he's also the coolest therapist ever, and he makes you feel comfortable, and he just has that way of sitting there, and the next thing you know, you're crying, pouring out your whole heart. It's Carlos, you were supposed to do this to me today, But with that, it helped me in all the other classes and in my one-on-ones with my therapist, and I don't know what they call it now. They call it primary, your hour and a half with, the women that you're with. And I realized, I had a lot of trauma prior too. I had trauma during, and then, it was just, he's man, whoever goes through all that and still standing. And I remember that, He's like, there's a reason why this is happening. So like, I remember just playing that in my head, like, yeah, it wasn't God that did it to me, but there's a plan for why this is all happening, and that plan started to come together. And then I started meeting other people, and we're able to open up, and not just about our addiction, but about that self-worth and that insecurity, and you know, you realize you're not so different, and just a little bit at a time, and every little bit turns me into a stronger, more aware of like how I react to other people and what to take in and what not to take in. I never had boundaries because my boundaries were always violated from before I could even remember. Coming from, like you said, an abusive childhood and handling a lot, it just kept going. And now I'm able to like set that ground. I'm able to put up that barrier. I'm able to put up that wall and say like, not today, you know, like today, not even today, but not anymore. Like, I know my self-worth. I know what I deserve. I know who I am. I'm still learning, you know, I'm at my character defects and stuff like that, so I'm getting a little bit more aware of those things. But I remember in step 4 and 5, when I finally put everything out on paper, and I even had that back in my head, like, I'm just gonna leave this off. But I remember like them saying like, nope, that leads to relapse. So it's like taking those suggestions and like doing things that made you uncomfortable, and like it just changed my whole perception of life and the world, and God, it was freeing. And you know, recovery hasn't been easy since I was in this great bubble, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go home to my family and it's gonna be great. And I get out and life hits me in the face, and here I am 6 months later, still not with my kid, still handling situations that are out of my control. But the difference is that I can say no now, like, no, I will no longer tolerate this and I deserve better. And if it means putting myself first before even my own child, because my child deserves the best version of me, and I did not give him that for so long because of my past, and I was so afraid of the future that I like disconnected. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give myself a year, and what's one whole year away from him? Even if he's 2 or if he's 15 or whatever, he might not have me right now for a year, yes, through FaceTime or whatever, he has me, but physically, that 1 year means nothing compared to having me for a lifetime. Because at the rate I was going, I would have been in the ground, and he deserves better than that. I deserve better than that. And I know that now. I know that, like, I know that I deserve the best things in life, and I may have not got a good hand, but like, it's not what you're dealt, it's how you deal it back. And now I just know that my best life is right in front of me right now, and it's going to continue because of this program. So I'm very, very blessed for all of you. So it's enough.
When I came here, I was guarded like Fort Knox. I had walls this thick, and because that's what I'm used to. I'm used to having that tough skin, because I don't let anybody in. So I came here with the eye injury right before I injured my eye, so I had these big Ray Charles shades, and and it was awful. Do you remember, Carlos? Do you remember?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. And an attitude, and a diva attitude, because I knew there was nothing wrong with me, and I'm gonna just do what they ask and go home. And that wasn't the case. You know, they broke me down. I had a lot of ugly cries in this room and other rooms in here, and I'm okay with that. And you know, having to understand that slow and steady wins the race, because what I'm used to is falling down and jumping back up on a horse, because that's what people do. If I act normal, I'm normal, but I wasn't normal. I was an addict. I'm an addict, and to take the time I've never taken care of myself. So to sit here and really work on me this year is the first time in my whole life. I've been to treatment before, but again, I hopped on a horse right afterwards. I remember going to meetings and said, I'm feeling better, and not even going to meetings anymore. And then relapsed. Step 1, 2, 3, boom, 1, 2, 3, boom, 1, 2, 3. That was what I did in the past. I right now, slow and steady wins the race. I'm okay with where my life is now. My son isn't here because I can't take care of him right now. I'm trying to work on this, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay if some of my family just won't talk to me right now. I'm making amends slowly. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with what God has put out for me. And I don't want thick skin anymore. I enjoy being vulnerable. I enjoy feeling happy, sad, and crying. And I thank God for it all every single day.
The journey's been, it's been interesting. It's been different. This isn't my first shot at sobriety. This is the first time I've invited God into the journey. This is the first time I've really reached out to my support system. This is the first time I've really invited other women into the equation and like kept them around. My home group is a women's group. I go every week. They are my ride or dies. When I'm feeling out of sorts, I call women. I'm involved in my halfway house. I'm taking the suggestions. I'm working my steps. When my support system and my sponsors say stay in halfway for a year, I'm like, my family lives 20 minutes away. Guess what? I'm staying in halfway for a year. When they say don't go back to school, I'm like, I'm 2 semesters away from my master's degree. Guess what? I'm not going back to school. I don't want to die. I came in this time just like, sure I was going to die. And I remember bursting into my therapist's office like, Josh, I need to talk to you. I'm full of shit and I'm going to die. And this is everything I lied about. And telling him. And he was like, okay, cool. Welcome to the club. Like, yeah, you're an alcoholic. Honesty, open-mindedness, willingness. I was honest for the first time, like totally honest. I was open-minded to the idea that I didn't know anything and I wasn't God, and I was willing to take the suggestions. And it's made all the difference in the world. The difference is not in material things. It is not in, it's not measured in anything outside of myself. It's measured in the fact that I, for the first time in my life, can sit in a room by myself, with myself, and be okay. And my head's quiet.
I would just say, especially if they click on this, and I would say I'm a veteran, and we understand that they understand the problems that a veteran has, because a civilian and veteran are 2 different entities. We're human, but we have a little extra. And the layers peel back. It's worth the call. It's worth reaching out. If any, and it has to be for yourself. It's not for your mom, it's not for your kids, it's for yourself. It's because you want to stay here and you want to get clean. Because if you're, and also if you're not here, everything else falls apart. No matter how bad you want your kids back, no matter how much you want to work again or go to school, if this isn't centered and this isn't right, it's not, everything else gonna fall by the wayside. And when it just gets right, it feels so good. And I'm probably gonna repeat it again. Slow and steady wins the race. You had how many years of using? It's gonna take something years to get recenter, and it's okay. It's okay. Just take your time, and it's okay to heal, and it's okay to feel happy. That's what I think.
Oh man, I'd say if I was 19 years old. I wish I would have had this program a long time ago. I mean, I'm 35 years old, and it was, oh, I'm not an addict. I'm not an alcoholic. I don't want to be like my father. Oh, I've got this under control. Never had it under control. I would say, like, whatever. And veteran side, you know, we're losing 22 veterans today. I think I read something today that the age limit, the age is decreasing by younger vets. Like, it went up 10% by the amount of age. Not older vets now. It's people in their 20s to later 30s, and we're not unique. I thought that, like, nobody would understand. Nobody understands war. Whether you're a veteran or you're someone civilian on the street, there's a war out there here in our own country. Like, and it's the epidemic of addiction, and you can't do it alone. Whether you have kids, whether you have responsibilities, work has programs so you can come get help. I mean, there's so many things. But I know for me, it was guilt, it was shame, it was people knowing that I was an addict or an alcoholic. It was fear of not, because I didn't love myself. So fear of what others would think, or others, I'm still trying to, fix some relationships, but, none of that mattered when it came down to it. The people that love you for who you are and know that this is a disease and have gone through addiction, like, they stay with you in your life. And I've realized that the people that don't, either are upset with you because you did something really screwed up to them, because we do that in our addiction, or it's people that just don't understand and they're not meant to be in your life anymore, I've been able to have a lot of healthy relationships because of that, but don't wait. We're losing people every day, and I know that this is my first time in treatment, but I don't even want to take the chance of relapse. I don't even say that as a first time, even put it out there, like, relapse is not going to be part of my story, because it doesn't have to be, and it's not. You can't do it alone. That's the biggest thing. You cannot do this alone, and there are millions of people and programs out there and women that have been through the same things that you've been through, who have experienced what you've been through and have years and years and have the best life ever. And you don't have to live like this anymore. And whatever excuse, I call them excuses because I know I had a lot of excuses on why I didn't need to get help. They're not worth it, because we're worth it in the end, and God doesn't make junk, He wants you to be your best self too. And it's as easy as picking up a phone. It's as easy as, just finding someone. There's got to be someone in a program in your family, one of your friends. Like, I remember seeing one of my friends on Facebook just put things out there about her addiction, and it inspired. It made me want to do better. I was able to tell her because of her. I got help. And sometimes it just takes one voice, and I'm hoping that we could at least be a voice for, even if it's just one, but we hope it's many, Yeah, many more.
It's okay to heal, because you deserve to heal.
Yeah.
It's okay. Totally deserve it. You might feel like you worthless, but you're worth it, and you deserve to feel better, and it's okay.
I know what it feels like to feel alone, and feel like you're too something, you're too educated, you're too broken, you did something that is too heinous. You're unforgivable, you're full of shame, you're whatever it is. You broke your family, you stole from your grandma, there's somebody that did the exact same thing. There's not somebody, there's plenty of people. Whatever it is, there are two options. And this is what it comes down to. You're gonna die, or you're gonna reach out for help. So don't die.
That's what we do. What we do. I mean, you know, obviously, you know, being a clinician is all about not necessarily anything to do to validate what we do through any means, any monetary means. The richness is in the heart. The being able to give back, the being able to see lives being once again, being able to be enjoyed, relationships established, being happy, being able to laugh, being able to begin to understand oneself again. You know, you see these success stories, and you see them how much they want to live, the desire to live. You know, we can educate, we can motivate, but the rest is up to them individually what they want to do. Once they leave here, once they leave the bubble, they go out there. It is their desire, the desire to live, the desire to make it, is what gets them through day in and day out. You know, through the obstacles of life, because life never stops happening. You know, there's an old saying that says, "I'd rather pay for my education than pay for my mistakes." In terms of addiction, a mistake can be deadly. And so what these ladies have decided is that they are paying with their time, their energy, their effort in educating themselves, being able to reclaim themselves, learning how to live once again, to be able to be happy, to be able to reunite back into the nucleus of life and their family. Their family never stopped loving them, but the fact of the matter is that they were toxic. Loving somebody and creating distance from that individual whose life is out of control are two different worlds altogether. In fact, sometimes we have to do that. It's a tough love. It's not easy to do, but it's wonderful. It's a wonderful thing. I hear from a lot of people, a lot of guys and ladies, you know, all the time, and it's just wonderful. It really truly is. It's just a wonderful thing. And then I go back in time and think about all the people that helped me. You know, some of them that have gone up, you know, to be up with the Lord. You know, their work with me was not in vain. And I hope that my work and all of our works here collectively with these young ladies is not in vain. Obviously, you're seeing the fruits of the labor. Our labor and their labor. So, a lot of pride. Tough ladies, aren't they, huh? Tough ladies.
No, gentle as a butterfly.
Very proud. Very
I'm
proud.
tough.